Dr. Alexander Hartman sat hunched over his drafting table, surrounded by worn notebooks, chalk diagrams, and half-finished prototypes. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows of his Columbia University office, casting sharp lines across the room but failing to reach him. His sleeves were rolled up, his tie loosened, and his eyes were fixed on a page of equations, their logic dancing just out of reach. He muttered to himself, scribbled a correction, crossed it out again. For weeks he had been fine-tuning a theory, one that aimed to prove that time was not a straight line, but something elastic, something that could be navigated. He called it a spatial-temporal reorientation matrix. His peers called it nonsense. The door burst open. "Alex, you're late." David Fields stood in the doorway, dressed neatly in a dark overcoat and scarf, tapping his pocket watch with exaggerated impatience. Alex looked up, confused, then startled. "Emma," he said, eyes wide. "The park, damn it." He gathered his papers in a rush, scattering some on the floor, then shoved his watch and wallet into his coat pocket. David handed him his hat. "You know she hates waiting," David said as they stepped out into the crisp December air. Snowflakes drifted down through the city's gray sky. "You bury yourself in those scribbles and forget the world exists." "They're not scribbles," Alex snapped. "They're the foundation of something real. If the university would just fund another impossible machine." David shook his head. "Come on, Alex. You're brilliant, but it's too much. Too radical." "I don't care if it's radical. I know I'm close. I just need support." "Time. You've had 4 years of time," David said gently. "But maybe what you need is to stop trying to outthink the universe." They reached Alex's townhouse. Inside, Mrs. Watchett greeted him with a stern look and a fresh set of clothes. "You're a mess, sir," she muttered, handing him a pressed coat and trousers. "Try not to look like a madman." Alex changed quickly, ran a comb through his hair, and tucked a small velvet box into his pocket before rushing out again. The streets were quieter now, muffled by the snow. The city softened under winter's hush. He arrived at the park, breath fogging in the cold air, and scanned the ice rink until he saw her, Emma, gliding across the frozen pond in a green coat, her cheeks flushed from the cold. She saw him and smiled. "You're late," she said, skating to the edge. "I know," he replied, taking her hand as she stepped off the ice. "I've been feeling terribly unwell." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" He stepped closer, eyes twinkling. "Yes, but I think I've found the cure." He dropped to one knee and produced the box. Emma gasped as he opened it to reveal a delicate gold ring set with a single sapphire. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Emma Walker, will you marry me?" She laughed, tears in her eyes, and nodded. "Of course I will, you idiot." He stood and they embraced. Around them, snow fell gently, coating the park in white. Then a voice cut through the stillness. "Hand it over." They turned. A man stood a few feet away, face obscured by a scarf, a pistol shaking slightly in his gloved hand. The wallet, the watch, the ring. Alex held Emma behind him instinctively. "Take the wallet and the watch. Just leave us alone." He pulled both from his coat and tossed them onto the snow. The man stepped forward. "The ring." Emma tightened her grip on Alex's arm. He stepped back. "Number. You're not getting the ring." The man lunged. Alex grabbed the barrel of the gun, twisting it sideways as they struggled. Emma screamed. The gun discharged with a sharp crack. For a second, the world froze. Emma stumbled back, eyes wide, hands clutching her side. Blood bloomed beneath her coat. She collapsed onto the snow, the sapphire ring still shining on her finger. "Emma." Alex dropped beside her, cradling her head in his lap. Her eyes fluttered. She tried to speak, but the words failed. The man fled into the trees. Alex pressed his hand over the wound, trying to stop the bleeding, but it was too fast, too much. Her breath came shallow, then stopped altogether. He sat there for a long time, in the cold, in the snow, in silence. There was nothing he could do. Or perhaps, just perhaps, there was. The world outside Alexander Hartman's townhouse moved on. Columbia hired new faculty, students graduated, streetcars came and went, and winter turned to spring and back again. But inside, time had stopped. Alex no longer taught. He rarely wrote letters. His books gathered dust. Friends stopped checking in, except for David. Even he didn't come as often anymore. What was there to say? Emma was gone. In her place, a blackboard filled edge to edge with calculations. The same symbols, redrawn and erased 1,000 times. A model of intersecting gyroscopic rings sat in the middle of his study, surrounded by copper wires, gears, and broken clock parts. It was crude, but it hummed when touched. And when it did, Alex swore he could feel something shift. On a stormy afternoon in March 1903, David visited again, stepping carefully over wires strewn across the floor. "This isn't healthy," he said, standing in the doorway. "It's been 4 years." Alex didn't turn. "You think I don't know that? You can't fix what happened." "I don't want to fix it," Alex said. "I want to change it." David exhaled, frustrated. He noticed a velvet curtain hanging across the back of the room, concealing something large. "What's that?" Alex wiped his hands on a rag and turned around, his expression distant. "I'll show you. 1 week. Dinner. Just you." David looked at him, wary but curious. "You're serious?" Alex nodded. "I'm going to prove that time isn't a river. It's a sea." David left in silence. A week later, Alex stood before the curtain in a tailored suit, his hair combed, a silver locket around his neck. David entered, surprised to see the room cleaned, the wires cleared, the lights dimmed. Alex pulled the curtain aside. The machine stood taller than a man. 6 concentric rings encased a metal seat, lined with control levers and dials. The base glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. David's jaw tightened. "You built it." Alex stepped in, adjusted the locket so Emma's picture faced outward, and took a deep breath. "I'm going back." He pulled the lever. The rings spun. Time stuttered. The room blurred, collapsed into colorless light, then rewound itself in impossible directions. Sounds reversed. Clocks ticked backward. His heartbeat echoed in his ears like thunder. When the machine finally stopped, it was snowing again. He emerged in the park. Emma stood across the street, alive, real, laughing to herself, arms wrapped in her green coat. He ran to her. Without a word, he kissed her and held her like he might disappear. She laughed nervously, confused but smiling. "You're early," she said. "No," he whispered. "Just lucky." He begged her not to go skating, told her something bad would happen, that she had to go home. She hesitated but agreed, playfully asking, "Bring me flowers, will you?" He promised. He ran to buy them. It took minutes. When he returned, she was gone. Then he saw the crowd. She had stepped into the street and been hit by a carriage, a fractured skull. She died on arrival at the hospital. Alex collapsed in the hallway, flowers crushed in his hand. David, somehow summoned again by the universe, sat beside him. "It wasn't the park," Alex whispered. "It was that day, no matter what I do." David didn't speak. Back home, Alex stood at the machine again. The locket still hung there as if mocking him. If he couldn't fix the past, maybe the answer was forward. Someone in the future might know how to break fate. He set the dials, pulled the lever. The years peeled away, cities grew, then changed, then vanished. Skyscrapers rose and fell, lights glowed, then dimmed. Roads turned to dust, then to glass, then to air. He stopped the machine in the year 2030. When he stepped out, the world looked like magic. Floating trains, glass towers, a moon colony visible in the sky like a second sun. He made his way to a vast domed structure, what had once been a library. Inside, machines scanned books in seconds. A hologram materialized before him, flickering into the shape of a person with no body behind it. "I'm Vox," it said cheerfully. "How can I help?" Alex blinked. "You're artificial?" "Correct. Fully autonomous. What knowledge are you seeking?" He asked about time, about paradoxes, the mechanics of causality. Vox answered easily, quoting theories not yet written in Alex's time. But when he asked about time machines, Vox paused. "Time travel is considered a fictional concept," it said. There were stories. One individual, Alexander Hartman, claimed to have invented such a device, but his existence is a fringe curiosity. Nothing was ever proven. Alex's breath caught. Vox didn't recognize him. Frustrated, he returned to the machine. He pushed forward again, further into the unknown. Decades ticked by. He watched the earth from above, weather changing, coastlines shifting, cities swallowed by forests or flames. He stopped at 2037. The library was gone. The skyline burned. Outside, the moon hung in pieces, cracked like an egg. Sirens howled. An explosion rocked the street. Alex staggered backward, hit the lever by mistake. The machine sparked. He fell unconscious as it hurtled through time, untethered. And time, merciless unwinding, swallowed him whole. When Alexander awoke, he was no longer in a world he recognized. The machine had come to rest at the edge of a vast cliffside, its surface warm from the sun above. He lay beneath it, dazed, skin blistered from the heat of travel. His hands were raw. The air smelled of salt and ash. Time had passed, more time than any human had ever lived to witness. A soft voice murmured above him. Blurred shapes moved through sunlight. Fingers dabbed cool water across his forehead. He opened his eyes. 3 women knelt over him, dressed in garments woven from reeds and silk-like fibers. Their expressions were gentle, cautious. Behind them, a boy, 10, maybe 11, watched him silently. When Alex stirred, the boy ran off. He tried to speak. His voice cracked, dry and unfamiliar in his throat. One of the women smiled and offered him a drink from a hollowed gourd. He drank greedily, the cold liquid filling the silence between them. Later, as the sun sank behind the horizon, he sat upright and saw the world. They lived in a city carved into the cliffs themselves. Structures of stone and vine clung to the rock face, open to the air, alive with color. Waterfalls threaded through the cliffs like silver veins, and far below the ocean crashed in rhythmic fury. The boy returned with a girl by his side, older, sharp-eyed, and confident. "You are not from here," she said in halting English. "You speak—" Alex nodded. "My name is Alexander Hartman. I came from the past." She tilted her head. "A traveler?" "A mistake," he whispered. "A man running from what he couldn't fix." She introduced herself as Mara, sister to Kalin, the boy who had watched over him. Their people were called the Eloi. They lived simply, fishing, gathering, remembering, but never questioning the limits of their world. That night, around the fire, he told her what had brought him here. About Emma, about the machine, about failure after failure. When he looked up, her eyes were wet, but she said nothing. Later, he dreamed of glowing blue eyes in the dark, of teeth, of Emma reaching out, then slipping away again. He jolted awake. Across the room, Kalin cried out in his sleep. "Morlock," he whimpered. Mara rushed to him, held him. When Alex asked what the word meant, she only said, "Old fear." Nothing real, but he saw the worry in her face. At dawn, Mara led him through overgrown ruins, crumbled buildings, rusted girders, fragments of language he once knew, the remains of New York, now silent, now buried. "This was your world," she said. He nodded. "All that power, and we still couldn't escape what mattered most." She turned to him. "Why come here? Why keep chasing this future?" He looked at the sky. "To understand why I couldn't change the past, why fate won't bend even for those who try." They took a boat across shallow seas. He asked why there were no elders. Mara grew quiet. She took him to a garden. Stones marked the earth, names carved in loops and swirls, a memorial. "We remember," she said, "even when we can't explain." He understood, and yet something in the silence still felt wrong. That evening, horns sounded, screams tore through the trees. The Morlocks came. They rose from the sand like shadows made of flesh, white, muscled, eyes glowing. Armed with blowguns and nets, they moved fast, coordinated. Panic swept the Eloi. Alex saw one of them take Kaylin's arm. He threw himself at the creature, knocking it back. The child escaped, but Mara screamed as claws gripped her ankle. "No!" Alex ran, dug at the sand where she'd been taken. She was gone. Later, Kaylin led him to a ruin deep in the forest, the library, or what was left of it. Inside, dust swirled like memory, and from within the wall, a flicker of light. "Hello," said a voice. "Welcome back." Vox, still alive. The Eloi called him the ghost. Vox knew. Somehow he knew everything. "They are called Morlocks," Vox said. "Once human, once like you." He explained what Alex had feared, that after the moon shattered, those who fled below evolved separately. Some grew monstrous, others brilliant. He told him where to find them. East, Alex went. He and Kaylin crossed a dead river, climbed jagged cliffs, found the entrance beneath a mound of black stone. Alex told the boy to wait. "If I don't come back," he said, "light the fire. Don't forget where we were." Inside, the tunnels reeked of metal and death. Bones. So many bones. He was captured, dragged to a room where Mara sat in a cage, pale but alive. Then he saw him, Uber Morlock, tall, pale, eyes burning like frost. He spoke not just with his voice, but with Alex's own mind, invading thought, memory, fear. "You tried to master time," he said, "but time mastered you." He showed Alex a vision. Emma, alive, children laughing, a life untouched by tragedy. And then, gone. "You built the machine because she died," Uber said. "Had she lived, you never would have tried. She was the cost, the spark, the loop." Alex fell to his knees. "You think you came to change fate," Uber whispered. "But I exist because of you." Then he returned the time machine. Alex climbed into it. He asked for his watch back. Uber handed it over, and Alex pulled him inside. The rings spun. The machine howled. They fought across centuries. Uber's strength seemed limitless, but Alex fought not to survive, for Emma, for Mara, for something better. He broke a pipe. Steam burst out, searing Uber's face. With a scream, Alex shoved him from the machine. Uber aged instantly, skin flaking, muscle shriveling, until nothing remained but bone. And then dust. Alex crashed into time one last time. Year 635,427,810. The world was dark, the sky dead. Morlocks ruled everything. He turned back, returned to the tunnels, freed Mara, set the machine to self-destruct. As it sparked and shuddered, he jammed his clock into the wheels. "This," he whispered, "is the end of you." They ran. A dart struck Alex. He stumbled. Mara caught him, took down the creature, dragged him into the light. Behind them, fire, then silence. The mountain collapsed. The Morlocks were gone. Kaylin returned with the Eloi. They stood in a circle, watching the flames. No one spoke, but something new stirred in their faces. Hope. Later, Alex stood beside Vox. The AI now taught the Eloi children about history, about language, about possibilities. Mara took Alex's hand. Together they walked to a place where wild grass grew around a stone foundation, a ruined wall, all that remained of a house from long ago. "My home," Alex said. "Once." Mara rested her head on his shoulder. "And now?" He looked out across the cliffside, the sea beyond it glowing gold. "Now," he said, "I stay." Back in 1899, David returned to Alex's house one final time. Mrs. Watchett answered, eyes red. "He's gone," she said. David stepped into the empty study. The machine was gone. The boards were bare, but on the windowsill sat a pocket watch. David picked it up, listened to it tick. "I hope you found what you were looking for, old friend," he said quietly. "Wherever or whenever you are." Far into the future, Alex stood among the Eloi, watching a child draw constellations in the sand. He smiled. The machine was gone, but his time had just begun.